Hello, again. Now, I know what you're thinking. The eagle-eyed among you, out of the few people who actually watch these things, will be saying, he's still wearing the same shirt from the last video. Yes, I am, because it's the same day. I've actually just come out of the cinema now, because I watched Guy Ritchie's new movie, The Gentleman, with Matthew McConaughey, Charlie Hunnam, Colin Farrell, Eddie Marsan, Hugh Grant, and what's the chick's name? Michelle Dockery. I think she's in Downton Abbey or some shit like that. Yes. So I watched Jay and Silent Bob the other night. I was just getting ready to doing the video before, as I was on the way to the cinema. Now I'm on the way back from the cinema. So, Guy Ritchie going back to the well and doing arguably what he does best, which is, you know, cockney gangster type movies. Wow, I've got a J.J. Abrams lens flare going on across the side of my face. Yeah. So Guy Ritchie is back in familiar territory, doing his cockney gangster fare, which to be fair, not great. To be fair, that's probably what he does best if you look at his body of work. So, I mean, Lock, Stock, followed by Snatch, and then came after Snatch Revolver after Snatch, was it? And then he did that god-awful, I mean, Revolver was a terrible film, but then he did that Swept Away with his, at the time, wife Madonna. Ugh. I think I got about 15 minutes into that and I was like, fuck this, and turned it off. And then he did like Rock and Roller, then he got a little bit Hollywood-fied, and and did a brace of Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. And then he's done, most recently, before The Gentleman, of course, he did the live-action remake of Aladdin, which is a bit of a weird fit. So yeah, he's made some terrible films outside of his kind of, you know, fake London gangster type shit. I'm just trying to figure out where this fits, because I actually really like Snatch. Not a massive fan of Lock, Stock. I think it's a little bit too rough around the edges for me. I don't know. I think the TV show is actually better than the film. If anyone remembers that, Channel 4 did like a Lock, Stock TV show, which was like an anthology series, and that was okay. I didn't mind that. That was okay. But yeah, Lock, Stock, no. I don't know. I didn't like it as much as everyone made out. But I did watch Lock, Stock after I'd seen Snatch, because again, similar to Jay and Silent Bob, Snatch came out while I was working at the cinema and was a bit of a sleeper hit. I remember it being pretty busy. It was always pretty busy, so I'd go in and catch a couple of minutes here and there. And as is typical with Guy Ritchie kind of films, they tend to be a little bit overly convoluted plot-wise. So I didn't kind of grasp what was going on just from, you know, standing in the back of the screens, watching people's reactions. But they seemed to be having fun with it. They were laughing at the jokes and all that kind of stuff. So I you know, went and watched it and really enjoyed it. So it's really kind of like one of those dumb quotable films. It's just got ridiculous quotes in it, which are, you know, amusing. And caricature characters and, you know, like cartoonish characters and all that kind of stuff. All of that is here in The Gentleman, except there's a little bit of a I want to say a nod and a wink, but I think it's a little bit more vain than that. I mean, the film opens up with Matthew McConaughey. Oh yeah, Matthew McConaughey's in this film, this Guy Ritchie film. So he's traded up somewhat from Vinnie Jones and Jason Fleming. No disrespect, Jason Fleming. But yeah, it's a bit of a trade up. Matthew McConaughey walks into a pub and orders a pint of beer, and the brand of beer is Ritchie. G. Ritchie. Now, I know Guy Ritchie's a bit of a wannabe toff. I know he went to boarding school and all this kind of stuff, which is kind of ironic that he makes kind of London gangster films, because from what I understand about the guy, he's about as far removed as a gangster as what you can get. So I don't know if that is like an in-joke. I don't know if he's got his own beer called Ritchie. It wouldn't surprise me, but it just feels a little bit kind of like self-congratulatory, you know, pat yourself on the back. But he's trying to pass it off as a nod and a wink. And I was just kind of like, I did groan at that point, but I was kind of, when I saw that, I was kind of expecting the worst from the film, and then, you know, as the film kind of progresses, it actually alleviated some of my initial kind of judgment. It's actually a decent little ride. Again, it's typical kind of Guy Ritchie fare, slow motion here, use of music, smash cuts, all that kind of stuff, intercutting between the different threads of stories that are going on at the same time, and then flashbacks, you know, because he likes doing flashbacks now after the Sherlock Holmes, Game of Thrones, Sherlock Holmes, Game of Shadows, Game of Shadows, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so basically, plot of the film is Matthew McConaughey is the king. He's a bit of a kingpin, you know, massively wealthy guy through botanical skills. He's cultivated himself a massive underground marijuana growing and distribution network in the UK, and is thinking about getting out. And as is typical with this kind of thing, you know, rival factions see that this guy's thinking about getting out, perceive it as weakness, and nature abhors a vacuum, so they all vying to fill the boots, kind of thing, fill that hole left behind by his leaving the criminal enterprise scene. So it's just ins and outs of all that kind of stuff. You've got Chinese gangs in there, you've got an American Jewish guy with Mossad bodyguards, he's interested in it, all this kind of shit. But the way the film is framed is actually quite interesting, because the film starts with, like I say, Matthew McConaughey going into a pub and ordering a pint, and then we get a huge exposition dump, but it's framed in such a way that even though a particular character is dumping a shitload of exposition, he's not narrating the film, but he is describing the film as it goes along. And I quite enjoyed the way that they actually framed it, because without giving any spoilers away, it felt like this character was actually giving direction to the director, and I was like, okay, that's kind of meta. I like that idea. And it kind of took it away from being that, you know, pat yourself on the back, mate, it's clever idea kind of thing. So I rolled with it, and yeah, I mean, it's Guy Ritchie isn't really... I don't know anyone who runs out to see the new Guy Ritchie film. You know, there's some directors out there who have carved themselves reputations, and, you know, whenever one of their new films is coming out, it's a must-see event. You know, Christopher Nolan, Sam Mendes recently with 1917. They make event films now. The directors are of the, you know, like Christopher Nolan and stuff like that. They are a selling point for the films and themselves, and that's through their kind of like creativity and flair and their ability to craft a well intricate. Just walk out in front of me. This is why kids get ran over at school. They just walk out in front of you. Guy Ritchie's not one of those directors. You know, there's a bit of flashbang wallop about his style, but it's not. There's nothing kind of like creative about it anymore. I feel like it's a bit style over substance, if you know what I mean. But the style is wearing kind of thin. He hasn't learnt any new tricks. So to compensate with that, what he's done with this film is he's surrounded himself with a talented cast who bring to life these kind of cartoony characters that he's known to write. I mean, there's no Mickey from Snatch in here. There's no Brad Pitt hamming it up and just absolutely tearing the screen to pieces with his Irish accent. You do have Colin Farrell doing a hell of a job with, you know, working with his Irish accent, which is refreshing. And he brings a nice flavour of comedy to the film. Hugh Grant is playing well against type with his character. He's throwing all of the pig at the screen with his character. He is hamming it up something rotten. He's got a bit of Jonathan Ross to the way he talks. He's playing kind of like this effeminate male character who's a bit of a private eye, sleazebag, scumbag, blackmailer at the end of the day. And it's completely against what Hugh Grant would normally do. I do have a bit of criticism again. I mean, it's a handsome looking film, let's not make any bones about that. It looks kind of polished and all that kind of stuff, but something that really bugged me throughout the course of the film is like that for a big chunk of the film it's two guys in a room talking in a very exposition heavy way, and Hugh Grant is one of those characters, and he wears a pair of Ray-Bans all the way through the film, like these tinted glasses. And for the scenes mainly geared towards the beginning of the film, when we're introduced to this character, they've done something really weird with the lighting, because you can't see his eyes. There's a reflection of a dining table or a kitchen table in the lenses of the glasses, and you can't see his eyes a lot of the time because of this reflection in the glasses, and you lose a big part of his performance because the way he's actually acting, which is bigger and just this kind of like very broad character, he's playing very big and having a lot of fun with the character, you lose what he's trying to do with the performance in his eyes because you can't see his eyes through the reflection in the glasses, which really fucking bugged me to begin with. It does get better as the film goes on, and obviously location changes slightly, but I was just kind of like, how did they let that through? How do you let that through? You need the way an audience connects with characters by and large is through their eyes, and that's not. This isn't to say that Hugh Grant is putting in like a all-time classic performance, but it's the way you connect with people, looking people in the eyes, and if you can't see the eyes, you're missing a big part of an actor's performance. And I was just like, how the fuck did someone not pick up on that and just say, we need to change the lighting, that we've got a reflection? It can't have been done on purpose. It just feels like one of those things that they completely missed because they were too busy, patting themselves on the back and saying, how great are we? And to be fair, it does look like everyone involved is having fun. And that's including Charlie Hunnam. And now, Charlie Hunnam was obviously, he made it massive with Sons of Anarchy, playing Jax Teller in that. And then he tried to transition over into movies. And my criticism of Charlie Hunnam in some of the movies, like Pacific Rim, you know, he was the main character in Guillermo del Toro's giant robot kaiju smashy action blockbuster CGI fest, and then he came back and did that Lost City of Z, and then he did which I still haven't seen. I've got it, but I haven't watched it yet. I've heard good things. And then he did Crimson Peak, again with Guillermo del Toro, and I've never felt like he's a leading man beyond TV. I mean, he carried Sons of Anarchy really well, but he was part of a ensemble cast with some great character actors. Ron Perlman, Jesus Christ, all the names are escaping me now. Peg from Married with Children, that was his mum. Yeah, so he was surrounded by a really talented cast there. And then when the choice of films that he was picking and headlining, I don't feel like he was a leading man. And although he's one of the main characters in this film, I feel like he fits in here better because it's part of a larger group of characters. And yes, his character has a bigger part to play than most, but because he's surrounded with, again, a talented group of actors, he's able to kind of like fit in and do work and work off against them and bounce off them and put in a decent performance. I mean, he's not required to do any really heavy lifting emotionally or anything like that, but he's actually kind of like, he comes across as pretty charismatic in this, and that's something that's kind of like been missing from his big screen performances up until this point, I feel. It's just my opinion, but like I said, I've never seen him as a leading man, so it's good to see him kind of like step forward, or at least move in that direction, as kind of like a headliner. Yeah, so the rest of the cast are all, you know, doing their bit. The story is a little bit kind of like convoluted, but at this point that's kind of what we expect from Guy Ritchie. So I would say if you like Guy Ritchie's films, I am excluding obviously, you know, the Disney stuff with Aladdin and to a certain degree the Sherlock Holmes movies, because again I don't feel like they were so much Guy Ritchie films as they were films directed by Guy Ritchie, but most people were going to see him because Robert Downey Jr. At that point. I believe there's another one on the horizon now, so that will be interesting, because we should have had a third Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr., but obviously he became Iron Man and, you know, the most well-known actor in the world. So that was put on the back burner, but now he's free from that, then I believe that's on its way. So we'll see what happens with that when it comes along. But yeah, I'd say it's probably in the middle of, from his gangster films, I say it's definitely better than Revolver, which is probably at the bottom of the pile. It's probably, it's not as good as Lock, Stock, and it's definitely not as good as Snatch. I'd say it's probably on par with Rock and Roller, if you saw that one, which I actually quite like. Rock and Roller, I had a good time with it, and I had a good time with this one as well. So it's definitely not got the kind of grit or the kind of rawness of Snatch or Lock, Stock. It's more Guy Ritchie in comfortable tough mode with his little handkerchief and his nice suits and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but it's still enjoyable. If you like those films, if you like the early Guy Ritchie stuff, then you probably find something to enjoy here with that. If, on the other hand, you prefer Guy Ritchie doing, you know, his Aladdin shit, I never watched it because it just looked garish and fake and just kind of like, no, this looks all wrong. Plus, Will Smith isn't a Robin Williams replacement for me. So yeah, fuck that movie. But yeah, The Gentleman. It's an 18, so that's always a plus for me. You tend to get releases of 18 movies in the UK around about this time each year. It's kind of weird. It seems like this is the time slot for where they release the more adult orientated films. There's nothing. I think it's probably been harshly done by. I think it's probably a 15. There's a lot of uses of the word cunt, which, if I ever get to the point of monetizing these videos on YouTube, this one's just been demonetized because I said the word cunt. But there's lots of uses of that, so I wonder if that's got something to do with it, because it's not an overly violent film. There are moments of Guy Ritchie violence in there, but it's, more the swear words. I mean, when the 18 certificate came up, it said very strong language. So nothing else about violence or sex or anything like that, because it's not really there. It's all down to the violence. But yeah, I need to see more 18 films. It's interesting that Netflix and the like of the streaming services, when they're making films, they're putting out more adult orientated fare. So yeah, we definitely need more 18 films. I'm just waffling now. Okay, that's it. So The Gentleman, I'd probably say it's a recommend if you like Guy Ritchie's fake gangster stuff. So check it out, let me know what you think. And yes, I'll probably be back later this week. I might go and check out that Seberg with Anthony Mackie and the chick from Twilight. Apparently she gets her tits out in it. So yeah, if you like young girls who look like young boys and got pixie cuts, it might be up your street. But yeah, I'll probably be back later in the week with Seberg. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. I'll have a different shirt on next time. So bye.